The Ring of Dain Thar Duin, Book 2. The red gold flower teaches the bird true power. Los walked Eolish lands in the year following the death of Malach. This gaunt visitor came to each home with wrong gifts of death and hunger, which the Eolish had forgotten in the stewardship of the high Ceallach. For often in days of waxing bounty, men forget the meanness which was their only possession for the good brought to them. And at the turning of the tides he discovers how much he will lose, and by tooth and claw battles to hold what he was given as though he had made it himself, abandoning his nobility to hold on to all he held. Such was the spirit which fell upon Ioland. The hunter, born anew as he stole the people of Helm Hylas by the dark knowledge of the charlatans, whose souls he held on the cursed spot on his heart, renewed his search for the ring, and though long he scoured the forest, he saw not the glinting of gold, for the ring had already been found. It was the man Ian, exiled from his tella, the wee Arden, for stealing from the family of his uncle, who took his exile in the forest beneath the Isle Malach, and there found the ring, and knew it to be the boon of Malach, as he had stood in the hill of Hala at the wedding of Malach and Neola. The ring in hand, he felt his fortune turning as the tides, and the waxing of his power, and the far-off dream of revenge against his uncle and his ally, the son of the Ceallach who was named Mowery, seemed not distant. He left the forest and went in search of a warband with which to conquer the isle, as he thought that the ring made him Ceallach, forgetting the words laid upon the ring. But having no gold to buy the loyalty of warriors, he began to go to Aglach Salam, the lulled water, and to the city which stood on its banks. First he went to the hill of Hala, the ruined hall of Malach, far from eyes which could spy him, cloaked in fog. The Eolish thought a curse lay heavy on that land, brought by the rage of the Wee Saul, and all feared there to tread. Though he feared spectres and wraiths in the mist, Ian entered the Barrow Downs, holding before him the ring of Malach to claim the favour of that king. He trembled as he went to the hill of Hala, and saw about the great hill the many barrows set by strange magic, struggling in the fog not to tread upon the barrows which rose suddenly. A great taboo it is among the Eolish to stand upon a grave howe. Twisted faces he saw in the mist, racked in pain, and Ian clutched the ring on his finger. A strange power lingered upon the mounds. Slowly he climbed the gentle sides of Hala and stood where before the threshold of the hall had stood, though there remained no trace of its splendour, and addressed the mist field, not knowing which barrow belonged to Malach. Malach, the grave humiliation of the greatest of all the Eolish, has been redressed by a gracious people unknown. They in their kindness have given proper funeral rites to the most just of men and king of a tella of warriors mighty, their labour given in recognition of your singular place in our history. Watch over them, and guide them who have done you kindness. Heal the bleeding heart of your kingdom. I have in my hand that great boon which drove the simple to envy, named Dain Thar Duin, the ring of good fortune, which was to be the everlasting heirloom of the Wee Saul and the hall of Hala. But they have come to ruin in the embers of betrayal. Those who stole from the hand which ruled have perished. Greed breeds greed. A thief must ever guard against thieves. The cruel Mabebd was killed by her charlatans. Those who live by the light of false wisdom are themselves made false, and he in turn slain. I, driven from the wee Arden, my people, by those covetous of my position and spiteful of my talent, and through means most treacherously conceived, found your boon in the forest where I had taken refuge, and knew it by its devices and by your grace, for I have stood here before in the hill of Hala. I knew your will that the ring be put to work for the good of the Eolish, for since your dying the people of Ioland have grown violent and mistrustful. I am no great hero king, But I shall be through your guidance and with the ring. You shall forge me to rule in your stead, and I shall be given gold and silver tribute from all peoples, and have the most beautiful women for my own. If there is any worthy of leading your people better than I, present them now before me, and I will give to them this boon." Confident that there stood no one around Hala, and that he was alone in the barrow mists which all feared to tread for the anger of the Welaide Saul, he prepared to leave. Yet, as he turned, the mists began to roll up as if blown away by a storm, though the wind remained calm. Below the hill of Hala stood 2 barrows larger than all others, and a child slept upon the rightmost, sunlight in her golden hair shining as the stars of night. Flowers bloomed beneath her in a bed of wild petals to comfort her. The powerful scent of 1,000 flowers reached Ian. Terror struck him. So wrong this child seemed to lay, dreaming upon the barrows, disturbing the wraith dwelling there in a mound so large. Yet natural she seemed there, that 100 storms might assault the land, but she would be unmoved. He fled the hill of Hala, daring not to look back, and in his haste he took not the caution he once had, treading over the barrows as the spirit of Malach seemed to reject him, and the mists began falling over the barrow tops, a final betrayal against him by the Eolish, his exile complete. He was left with naught, no people and no name to safeguard him, only his wits and the great ring of the high Ceallach. Yet the ring needed gold to breed gold, fortune to make fortunes, neither of which he had in his possession, but both he could gain along the lulled water, Aglach Salam. It is the name of a river which flows quietly through Ioland, sweet water. The lulled water takes no falls or rapids, fordable in all its bends. A lake receives the river gracefully in the same temperament in which the river flows, and so the lake shares a name with the river. It is in the south of the lake, where the water rushes forth to meet the sea, there earning a new name, Aglach Ulmo. On the western shore of the lake, Arel Salam lies, the lulled stone. The Eolish keep to their families, each with its lands, and come together to form tribes, and many tribes make a tella, a great family of kin which holds their name. In the tella stand no cities, only villages, the largest homes 2 tellachs. But Arel Salam is separate from all tellas. It lies in the heart of Ioland, between many tella, where those who were made to live in exile or outlawry came to build their homes. In time the city prospered, and those who sought to sell their wares to other tella went there. The city rules the nearby fields, and its people eat well. Many tellachs tried to take Arel Salam, but the walls repelled the host. They bowed to Malach alone. So the ring came to Arel Salam in the hands of Ian, he who was without friend or coin. One gains the other. A friend gives coin freely, and coin buys friends. He asked for coin, but no one gave unto him. None knew him and thought him a thief. So he gave himself to the blacksmith Crechen, and served him in all ways. But though Ian was given plenty of food and a bed, his master would give him no coin. Each day he labored, he stood further from his desire. Each night he dreamed the seat of Malach in the hill of Hala burning before him, ash in his hands. He would sit in his own hall, placed first among the Eolish, and they would bring to him tribute as he desired. He would take cattle from their fields and drink their mead. He would leave his foes broken before his mead bench, and take the fairest of the isle for his own. These things he desired, such that he saw them in the waking day, yet he knew not how to take them. He went to his master and offered to him the ring for a small purse of coin, and that very night he slew the smith and all who slept under his roof. Fleeing with the gold of that house, the ring zealously kept in his hand, word of the violence was soon known throughout Ioland, and came to the ears of the hunter, who left in haste to Ar el Salam. Ceallach awoke without Ilulean. The loss of her made every breath a pain, and cried aloud her name through the forests and fields as a wounded animal, a hound without his master. Rage was Ceallach, for he feared that those who had despoiled the hall of Hala and the peace of Malach had killed the only heir of his body. Again foe succeeded only by his failing. Once he had been champion of Ioland, deliverer of Malach's justice and bane of his enemies, but foes walked the island, and Malach did not. Ceallach returned to the halls of Malach to take his vengeance on those who had burned that house, but he saw them not, finding the many mounds which hallowed the dead, and he was in awe. He understood not how they came to be, for those who attack in the night and against friends would not honor the dead or give monument to their treachery. He stood upon the great hill among the twisted embers of the great hall, and gazed at the field of the dead. He knew not who lay in them. Any mound could house Malach and Neola, so he spoke to each mound, and wept. Malach, here at your threshold stands a man who has thrice failed you, and all the people you shielded. Never has such shame been laid on the shoulders of a man, and under its weight I stumble. All Ioland will know my name as he who failed his sworn lord and friend, for as you welcomed to this land your child, I was taken with drink, and in my joy set no watch over your lands, so that no man stood guard at the doors of your hall. It was I who permitted your house to burn to ash. But endless is my punishment for failing the house of Malach, which I swore to uphold. Though from these horrors I saved the child Ilulean, and far we fled from the hunting hounds, I do not know where the child is, and I fear that fate has chosen me for this final humiliation, an everlasting death for the house of my lord. I ran with her till she could not run, then I carried her. For many miles, though my legs became the rock of the mountains, I ran still, on still as the lands grew wild and strange to me, till I fell from exhaustion, and sleep kept me for a full day and night. But the champion of the Aeolish should pay no mind to breathlessness. He must be the strength of an entire people, knowing not fear, wanting no sleep. I am not this champion. A warrior of unending disgrace am I. Malach, hope tells me that your house yet lives on, but fear whispers otherwise. I would give my life to know that she yet lives. I dread to learn that she has died, that they have not covered her in a barrow, that she might dream eternal. Malach, this rules my mind. It holds me so fiercely that I cannot rest until I know of her fate. I know that some great good has come to this hill of sorrow, and gave you the funeral rites worthy of your person. To this good I speak also. Let the tired warrior who has known but shame be given purpose. If she yet lives, let this warrior know, for I have lived my whole life knowing of my purpose, yet now it vanishes before my eyes. Give your servant one last command, so that he may spend his life fulfilling your desires. The fog lifted with a single breath, and the sun brought the grass to a flaming green, and it seemed to Ceallach that he saw with eyes unclouded at the wonder of day. He knew that the land of the Aeolish would live while the house of Malach lived, and would die when it died. Heartened, Ceallach left the hall of Malach and would not return, for the dead should be left to their rest. Ceallach went then to his people, the Drocht Balon, who lived in the far west of the land, numerous and strong and loyal to their own blood alone, which he had once ruled as Ceallach. It was their love for Ceallach which brought them to Malach. They would follow their king though he stood before the gates of the fiend. Ceallach had left them, living in peace when he had come to the house of Malach, and there was little for his people to fear under the hand of the high Ceallach. But now need was great for him to know of his people's fortune after the burning. In guise he went, careful to seem no more than a beggar, that none would accost him, though his arm still had great strength. He went slowly through the lands which had paid tribute to the great king, desiring to see the manner in which the Eolish suffered after the breaking of the peace. As he travelled, it seemed to him that every man sought to raise his position above his neighbour, and the memory of Malach lay buried beneath Hala. Ceallach helped those who he saw in need, easing the suffering of the land. He would harness himself to the plough for those whose livestock was taken. He gave freely and safeguarded all but those who broke the peace of Malach, who were met with his vengeance. Where he walked, so too did Malach. But Ceallach was one man, and around him the land burned. Many months it took Ceallach to reach the Drocht Balon, his people, as he stayed with those who remembered Malach until they had want for nothing. In this way he walked home, and reaching the borders of his people he found the land in flame. The Unlandar with their kin, the Unlandar Norna, despoiled the land as they learned of Malach's death. The Drocht Balon fought to save their peoples, not their land, and were holed up in the great keep of that people, Isle Balon, about which was set the wall of stone, alone in all of Ioland, which Balon himself had made to hide his people from the beast of the sea. Ceallach walked his land as a thunderstorm. He killed any man who was not his own until he came to his seat, that which he had not seen since he made his claim for High Ceallach. But so long had he been away that the guards who met him knew him not, and gave him challenge. Halt, beggar, and know that before you is the great seat of the sons of Balon, this hall his mountain. This hall will have none but the sons of that blood. If you be not of her children, then we deny you this hearth. This land is ours, and belongs to no others but those whose blood has tilled this land since it rose from the water. Since the death of our Ceallach and the Malach above him, these lands have known great pain from the hands of bandits. We have placed Seamus Goodbrother as Ceallach, and he has closed our land. If your blood is from another people, then leave this land to her own. But if you are of the Unlandar families, then your life is forfeit. Ceallach loomed over them, unafraid, his strength waxing in his own land. His muscles became young, knowing no limit to himself. Ceallach was in his full power. He heeded them not, and threw the men from his path, lifting the great gate to his kingdom with one hand. The stone hall of the sons of Balon was in uproar at his approach. A half-formed shield wall guarded the seat where before Ceallach sat from him, bristling as a hedgehog at the mighty transgressor. Ceallach Seamus Goodbrother called to Ceallach from his seat, and issued him challenge again. Might you must have, to open by your arms alone what takes a team of oxen to move. This strength has betrayed you. Now you stand before the maul of the Olafest, demon of the sea slain by our ancestor, the seat of the Drocht Balon. You will be fed to it for such grave arrogance. Might though you have no weapon, and each of us is armed with spear and sword. Honor dictates that we arm you, but so does she say that one must respect the home of all men, friend and foe. So, homebreaker, we give you the rights of thieves, and not those belonging to warriors. No mound will cover you. Give your name, that we might have the pleasure of cursing you as we drink our mead. Ceallach gave quick response, weeping to find his home hurting so, and in speaking he sought to ease their pain. Ceallach, son of Cole, am I. Long have I walked to return before the sacred seat of Balon. Much pain have I seen in the land as Ioland itself weeps for the death of Malach. I blame not your failure to remember me. These past days have weighed heavier than all others on our shoulders. Old age has come for me in these hard days. 5 years I lived in the hall of Hala, and 1 year I have wandered the land in search. Those 5 years I remained in my same appearance in joyful youth, but these last days have aged me more than the counted years. I have known little but despair these many days. I have walked the land of my brother, and remembered only his great kindness, for he brought all our people, the many Ceallach, to 5 years of peace, more than they have ever known. Seamus, good brother, rules you not, for fear is your Ceallach. It is he who rules our people and lands. Great is his reign, powerful his arm. You cannot conquer this ill ruler until you master yourself. You are wise to hide from him thus far, for if the host of the Drocht Balon charged forth to retake the fields which have for all time belonged to them, they would be no more than the lamb given to the stew. The might of our Ceallach has died. I blame no man for this dying. Each of you surrendered to your new king your arms, fleeing as black words reached you that the high Ceallach was slain. Curse for all time these words, that the death of our Malach should ever be spoken by mortal men is the most cruel of fates. Curse all drink. Mead has made me oath-breaker and friend-slayer, unworthy of my own blood. I, who could have fought all hosts of Ioland with but a sword and the faith of my lord, lay besotted in a cot as Hala was despoiled around me. I will touch no drink the rest of my days. Cursed the name of Ceallach, who failed his master, who could not raise a barrow over his Ceallach as his duty commands. For others have done his duty before him. He will have no rest and no home until he is revenged. These curses I lay as freely as now dead oaths which I have sworn. By these I will abide. Men of the Drocht Balon, I may no longer be your Ceallach. For shamed though you are, I am more so, and unfit to lead men. Seamus, good brother, will not lead you to reclaim your lands, unless you reclaim your bravery and become the mighty Drocht Balon again. Hold this land, and ensure that the earth remembers Malach. I will go from this land, my home, for the child Ilulean yet lives, and I will discover her. She is hidden I know not where, but I shall find her and bring her to safety. I will bring her here, and you will secure a home for her. She will not live as a rat, but the heir of Malach, and we will return Ioland to that noble house of peace. To our tasks, then, and fear no pain. Take back your fields while I go about my journey. In days of labor, however many, we will return to the days of brotherhood so long lost. Brothers, I now leave this hall, my home, for all time, until I catch the elusive hind and have Ilulean safe. My hunt will end victorious. I am sure of it, though the years be many. They will be short for the single devotion to my task. So too must you steel yourselves, and joyfully set to these labors for Ioland. Not stopping to drink from the well, Ceallach left the hall, though his Ceallach pressed about him and begged him to remain. For fear had fallen from their eyes, and they remembered him, and the great days they had known under his rule. They desired him to lead them once more, to delay the hunt for Ilulean until they had their homes again. But Ceallach rebuked them, and told them that if they would not gain their farms themselves, he would not return to them. Chastened and ashamed, they vowed to take back their land, and to never permit anyone but the true king come there under arms. He went then to the lands of the Helm Hylas, knowing them to be the raiders who burnt the timbers of Ioland to ash, and would revenge himself on them. But when he came there, he found them to be withered and rotting. Dark magic stole their being and left behind their husks. Revulsions seized him, and he wondered what great evil could slay the soul and not the body. Ceallach searched the many dead, but found Ilulean not. Knowing the story of her blood, Ceallach feared that some dark song of the Baith had brought about this dark end. Darkness breeds darkness, and fens cannot drain. He left that place of death, and went west, seeking some word of her. The hunter came to Ar Salam, eager for word of the thief who slew under the law of bread. He was not yet in his full might and cruelty, and entered the city in quiet guise. Many knew the name and power of Reich. Hearing the ruin of the house of Malach, their enmity for this crime was great. A year passed since the burning of Hala, and high summer came. In other years a time of great plenty for all the island, but in the year of mourning one of violence and fear. Few sowed their fields, hoping to reap that of their neighbor, and those who had saw their fields burn before the harvest. It was for this reason that Noreen of the Salal came to the city of Ar el-Salam in desperate search of food. For upon hearing the word of Malach's death, the Salal made war with their neighbors, leaving their fields fallow, and though they fought many terrible battles with those they had once led in the great host, they never once returned in victory. Their Tella had no grains in stockpile, and the Ceallach sent his son to the city in hope of food, for none of their neighbors would give to them. Noreen quickly met the hunter, and they became fast friends by the greed which dwelled in their hearts, their friendship made undying. For the first days, the hunter under guise walked the city as a beggar in need, and the people of Ar el-Salam were kind and giving to the hunter, for they knew not who he was. He had once passed through the city as one of the Helmhilus warriors, made by obligation to battle for Malach. But Malach had kept his men disciplined, and he had not the chance of seeing the city in detail. In all the war which took the lands around them, Ar el-Salam was not harmed, saved by its great walls, and in all the battling and uncertainty, the city was the only in which Tella could find the grain needed for the winter. In this wealth Ar el-Salam had much to give, and gained gold in excess of its goods. In time the hunter came to know the deeds of the murder of the blacksmith, and the name of he who had so readily committed this treachery. Yet he knew not where the man Ian had fled to. To this end he sought the great men who governed the city, that they might give to him all knowledge they had of the man. Noreen was also at the hall of these great men, seeking the grain they held within their walls. The hunter in guise spoke to them. As the land about succumbs to the horror of violence so soon after the peace which lived in all the land, you live in that peace still. As the true Ceallach of all Ioland was slain in her bed, the peace they brought us flamed, and you prospered. They who come to Ar el-Salam without coin or goods are made to live meagerly, while they place more upon your table. They seek not dyed clothes or jewels, but bread, which for their need you have made more expensive than gold. You take from them eagerly, caring not if you hold their last coin, profit for the sake of prestige. For how does one sit at this hall if they possess no trader's skill, certainly not by wise warrior's blood, as governs the rest of this land? Yet in all this prosperity you have earned by the death of your master, there remains a blight and a stain you cannot clean with your gold. The cursed man Ian, who is in every way evil, that his own people have placed him in exile for his crimes and hold him to be dead, found refuge in your city. Blood does not protect this man, for his crime was against the law of blood. Now he defies the law of man by slaying those who had protected him. How these wise fathers came to permit a man of such bestial nature to enter their great home is a worrying question, and the people will naturally come to wonder at this misstep of their wisest brothers. They will realize this all the sooner should the knowledge and power of these preeminent men fail to assist my quest. So give to me all word of where he has fled, that I might in haste ride there and take what he has stolen from the rightful Ceallach of the land, she who wore it before she was betrayed and slain. Give to me that which I am owed, and you in return will have naught to fear." Noreen listened to the hunter, and when he finished followed him in speech, seeking to bow the men of Ar el-Salam further. "Here stands one who has seen the unjust practice with which this hall has treated the people of Ioland. Do they forget that before them sits Noreen, son of the Ceallach of the West, who was appointed to battle the power of the vile tyrant Malach, who would have, but for the treachery of Ceallach, stood as the single master of this land. It is I who by right would have married Neola. Only by our union would rise not daughters but sons. The Unsalal would not have died as cowards before the night attackers. Our Ceallach would not surrender to death so easily as Malach. Now we have come to you, you who have become rich by the misery of others and your own fearfulness. Brave Iolich build no wall, for by their own hand are delivered from danger. But about you stands a wall, not built for brave deeds. How pitiful are the Iolich, that those who possess the most treasure are not the strongest of warriors. How shameful that those who know safety are not bound by bonds of blood, but are exiles from decent Tella, rejects from their own blood. I have come to this house to feed my people, beset upon by foes at all sides. For when Malach died, he took his peace with him. Yet I am refused the food needed for the winter, for want of treasure. Should this food be refused us once more, I shall begin to walk your streets and rouse the people against you, for permitting the man Ian to enter into your city and bring ruin to so many. The demands of the Unsalal are just, and will be seen to by this council, else war eternal between your people and mine. Noreen, though once clever in word and deed, had fought many battles in the wars he began, and had forgotten how to speak to men far from the fields of contest. The men of Ar-el-Salam were unafraid of all his words, for they knew the position of the Unsalal and could match them in the field. They spoke. Not only have the fields of the Iolich burned in these long days of the sword, but also their courtesy. Freely and without reservation have we permitted into this city those who seek respite from the war traitors have made. In what way have we harmed them? If it is a sin to refrain from slaying our kin, then we are most guilty sinners. It is a mark against our records that the man Ian was permitted into this city, but it seems that we have not learned our lesson. Since chasing away a viper from our home, 2 more have slipped through the doors. To the first viper we say this: no mighty man are you to threaten those who opened their home for you and listened to your entreaties. Much would we have given you to feed your people for the coming months, but the great piles which you demand could feed many others. Had you the coin, we would give all that you sought. Yet now we will give naught to you who threaten us in our home. Look about you and see that we have about us arms, and that you have surrendered yours. Guest right applies not to those who would burn down the home of the host. Remember that it is not from the might of others that you starve, but your own folly. You failed to sow your own fields, and sought from your rival not your own hand. We did not pluck the seeds from your fields. You did not sow and cannot reap. Starve for your insolence. The second viper is to us a stranger and better at favor seeking. We will give you what you seek on one solemn vow, that when we have given you all what we know of the man, you will leave Ar-el-Salam and return no more, never raising arms against the people of this place. And should the weasel, Noreen, ever raise his voice against us, that you kill him. The hunter did not wish to place himself under more oaths than he already carried. If the ring came again to Ar-el-Salam, then he would be unable to take it. But he placed his oath to the Queen Mabebd above all other things in life, and so made this promise readily, unafraid to break it. Sated by their ignorance of his will, the council of the wise told all they knew of the man Ian. In his flight from Ar-el-Salam, Ian went to the lands to the south, which belonged to the Unkolta Bar, and came to the home of Gallion, a shepherd of little wealth and rich honesty. But afterwards they knew naught of his journey, and all knowledge of Ian ends. The agents of Ar-el-Salam, who sought to bring the man before the judges, found no word of him. It was not through the failure of the agents that no word of Ian reached the city, but rather the wickedness of the wife of Gallion. She learned of the wealth Ian brought with him, that which he gained through slaughter, and more than she had seen in the coffers of her husband, and she lay with him, But when Ian would not flee with her, and would leave her to her squalor, she told her husband that he forced himself on her. Gallion slew Ian for his crime, and gave him no burial. The ring thus became his, and Gallion found that he wanted no more. Each ewe lambed, and none knew sickness. They feared no wolves. With such a flock and more than he had wont to guide, he sold a number of this new flock, and received gold more than their worth. When Gallion reached to his purse from then after, he found no end to his coin. His wife, who had long been shrewish, was now affectionate, and had no more needs. The ring gave him in such short time that which he had never had in long years, and for his righteousness it gave him great things. For Gallion knew not the lie which gave him the ring. But Gallion was not of Malach's blood, and the curses set upon the twisted gold would soon see him dead. Gallion became famed, and he lived in the lands of the Uncoltabar, ruled by the great Ceallach Etheldor Heldor, called the Hawk King of Cotul Rada. This king joined in the host which battled Malach, but in defeat Malach spared him and made a friend of him, so that in the 5 years of his rule Malach had him as the guardian of all southern lands, to keep watch on those Tella Malach thought would rise against him. Never did he have to raise arms against the Iolich in this time, but he maintained his warband and kept this host fresh. When the black words came to him, the Malach slain by treachery, Etheldor sent forth his army and seized all lands west of the river Aglach Ulmo and south of the hills of Isle Bolam. He knew all which passed in Ioland, and could send his host to meet any threat before it reached his borders. For these reasons was he known as the Hawk King. King Etheldor sent for Gallion a number of times in his rise. First, to ensure that he was no thief, and later to praise him and feast on his mutton. King Etheldor would only feast if Gallion came with 15 lambs. Few Ceallachs in the years after Malach could ask tribute of their people, for they had little, and the Ceallachs were away fighting in other lands. Etheldor could ask them, since his warband held their borders unchallenged, and a shade of the peace lived still. From his friend Gallion he demanded little in gold, as he took much in lamb. As the agents went out to collect tribute, Gallion learned the truth from his wife. Either in wine-laden humor or a rare argument, she told him of her sin, that she had laid with Ian freely, and that he would not flee with her. Gallion, ashamed that he had slain an innocent man in his home, and to find his wife such a snake, worried about how next to act. When the agent Aelthras came and asked for his payment, Gallion gave the ring, the last of Ian's gold which was still in his home, and told the man of his sins. Gallion demanded that Etheldor judge him and his wife. The agent promised to learn the Ceallach's judgment on the case, and asked that Gallion take no action until Etheldor gave his sentence. Gallion would not learn Etheldor's verdict, for soon after the hunter came to that home with Noreen and demanded the ring for his life. Gallion could not give it, and so he and his wife were slain, their home burned, and flocks driven away. It was there before the burning house of Gallion that Noreen and the hunter renewed their pact of friendship, that the hunter would receive the ring and the title of High Ceallach, while Noreen could ask for 3 boons which the hunter could not refuse. They set off in pursuit of the agent and the ring. Away, in the east, among the barrows which surrounded the hill of Hala, walked a man by the name of Triashash of Wee Dubshalain, a small clan among the Wee Arden of the north. He walked the many graves with sadness, feeling the pain of the peoples buried there. Triashash was an Iolich singer, and in Iolich songs there is power. He was a singer beyond all others of all time, and for his voice called the sparrow. He had come to sing to them a song of easing, to give them rest eternal and drive vengeance from their souls. As he walked through the mists of the sorrowful land, he saw faces swirling there, but he was calm, for he mourned the faces and did not fear them. Sitting upon the tired hill of Hala, he saw below him the outlines of the barrows hidden in the fog, and he sang to the spirits of the dead age. But he did not finish his song, for he flew into a rage at what was a most disrespectful sight. Upon one of the largest mounds before Hala, a child danced to his song and picked the flowers which grew there. He shouted to the child, enraged by her presence, his song not meant for mortal ears, and said to her, "Child most foolish, know you not where you stand? Care you not for the great sorrowful dignity of these barrows? I am Ceallach, famed singer. Though this name is not known, all know the repute of the sparrow, whose song is more powerful than that of birds, whose voice is sweeter than their warbles. Child, no person should dance upon the barrows of the dead, and should you be buried in as great a mound as he who you humiliate, your spirit would be ashamed should someone come to pick the grave flowers. He that is your father must be shamed for your action, and cursed throughout the land. How unsuited for fatherhood this fool is for his negligence! He should have scolded you for entering this sacred place. Only I, who have come here to soothe the king of old, can walk among these mounds because of my noble purpose. And I danced not upon their graves, but walked with somber care. Child, leave the mound and tell your father that he is a fool for granting you to walk so freely." The child on the mound ceased her dance, and listened to the sparrow as he spoke, taking notice of each word as flowers seemed to leap from the earth and bloom about her. And she replied, "He which made me was a fool, for he believed that they who had once been counted as friend and ally would not betray his friendship, and in his joy forgot that men are men and can only love those beneath them. If you seek the man to chastise, he is below my feet, and the song you offer him cannot give him more peace than he has already. You command me to leave this sacred burial, but sparrow I cannot, for my great mother does not permit my leaving. The dirt of this grave is the border of my home here, and I may only see the sky from this mound, though my home goes on far beneath the soil. I am sorry if I have disturbed your song. You sing with grace and true power, a kind I have known no mortal man to sing. But your claim to sing sweet as a sparrow with the sorrow of the flying race is to me untrue. Their songs do remind me of my mother, who lives now in the barrow beside my father. In your songs I could not see her face, but I can when birds sing to me. All I could see was a man seeking praise. The power of your voice was a wonder to behold. My great mother tells that true power is rare in men. For all this time, from the burning of the hall where you sit, I have learned the true power in this land. Little do I know, but more shall I learn, and soon I will be given all knowledge. Then I will be permitted to leave these sad hills. I am told that a special purpose is given to me, one which will save my great mother's people. I heard from you some of that power which my great mother has. And though that power is pale in comparison to the winged race, I would much like to hear more. For though I have lost much, I will endeavor to be kind, and to give the race of man my love, as those who harmed me would not. Your voice is a gift, and if a sparrow you claim to be, then a sparrow you are. I can teach you true magic, but for this I ask a gift, a vow, and your friendship. Your gift is to be the end of your song. The vow you must swear is a promise only to sing your songs for the righteous. Your friendship will be mine eternal, and you will not harm that which is mine, as I will not harm that which is yours." The sparrow was awed by the strange child, but wary of such a creature, for clearly she was one of the Baith whom mortal man never escaped unchanged. The sparrow was well learned in each story of their race, and knew of the bargains they made. Only Math was unchanged by his contact with the Baith, and that only by his own great knowledge of power. He had little humility for his own power, but knew that Math was the most powerful of mortal men. fearing of her power and the baith as men ought. He knew, too, that she would not freely let him pass, so he warily swore to her oaths. Soon after he came to the lands of the Uncoltabar, though of the days between he does not tell. The lands of the Hawk King, being vast, were divided by the deep river Ceallach Idom, over which there is but one bridge, where the toll is set high. Far from there, the river takes a meandrous bend and is fordable. Here was set a brigand who named himself the River Otter. His toll for the ford was less than what the king had set over the bridge, and he aided those who paid in the crossing. The armies of the Uncoltabar had seized the ford to gain more wealth, and had placed a prize for the otter's life, but they had not managed to find him. The men earned the enmity of those around for the high price on the crossing, and so the otter drove them off with their aid. No matter how many times the Ceallach sent his warband, they would be driven off by him. Never did they rule the ford for more than a fortnight. It was when the otter ruled the ford when the sparrow, searching for a patron, came to the waters, and the agent Eilthras ran to his master and the hunter after him. The sparrow had no coin with which to cross at either the bridge or the ford. He sang to the otter a song of sweetness to let him pass, yet the otter was a simple but quick-witted man, not listening to the weave of power laid in the words. The sparrow needed the Hawk King to feed him and give him bedding, so he spoke to the otter. I see in your eyes lies none of the wisdom which I have sung to you. My words have floated sweetly by your ears as a butterfly and vanished in the flowers of these summer days. But think what little there is to be had from my denial. You cannot from me gain coin, for I have none, and there will be no one to sing your praise if you attack this singer. Indeed, if I am refused, then in all songs I sing from this day and after I shall name you Oaf, and all Ioland will mock you until the isle falls back into the sea. You cannot rob me of my instrument, for my voice is tied to this body. Nothing is to be had from your refusal of me but much gained through my friendship. For if by your charity I come to the hall of the Uncoltabar, then your praise I will sing to the people there, and by the sweetness of my voice I shall deliver to you this ford for all times. Think of the merits of my friendship and wondrous wealth which will be yours. Only remember that it was your kindness in permitting my passing and my honor which brought you all that you might seek. The otter stood unmoved in the river and replied in his short manner. What use is a sparrow to the river otter? He cares not for its song, his business more valuable to him. Far better it is to swim and fish than sing. What is a home to a bird who changes trees with the wind? The river is the home of the otter. He does not change his home, and in the snows of winter he does not fly south. So the sparrow with his fine song is unable to sway those who might live in the river, though his plumage is a fine regalia. This sparrow offers the protection from the hawk, who he will charm with his song. But the otter has seen this hawk before, and chased him from his home when they thought to take it. May they come 100 times, and I will wait for them in the deep water, and retake this place once more from those who claim kingship over the water. Fly, sparrow, and let them know that so long as there is water beneath me, I cannot be defeated, and I will ferry across all who can pay. Thus in this manner they continued, and through the day gave argument and counter-argument, until the chariot of the sun began his gallop to the horizon and rest. At this time Eilthras came to them, exhausted from his journey. In a run he had come from the house of Gallion, eager to deliver to the Ceallach the case of the shepherd. Knowing full well the toll of the otter, he paid and moved to cross the river, but the sparrow accosted him. Good man who gives gold so freely and kindly, little caring if gold should fall to the hands of brigands, wrongly thieving from good men. Let no man say that you hoard your gold for your own. Here is truly a king of men. All men are to you friends, for who might hold enmity for one who is so generous? Men are not of the kind to hate a purse which sees not the filth of their hearts, but feeds them freely. Surely no man of the Iolish is of the kind to hate such a man. Banditry and brigandry is the work of all men of this island, now that the Ceallach above Ceallachs is dead. There are those who are not of such grand heart, who still plague this land, and to whom you are hateful. To cross this river is to walk into the hall of such a man. He is the hawk king Etheldor, and his lands lay about you. Many times has he fought this brigand to remove him from this river, and many times has this snake been removed by his true lord and master, that his people might use this ford unmolested. Though many times driven from here in cowardly defeat, he does yet live in opposition to his king. Dangerous it is for such a man who does so freely give to his enemies to enter his lands, having bought their friendship. I do merely warn you that such a Ceallach as he would not forgive so quickly that you have paid those who resist him. There are but 3 of us here, and should the tongue of this otter slip, then your purse may well be in danger. Brigands are not famed for their loyalties and temperance. Drink may yet loosen a flapping tongue. But if you gave to him the cost of a second passage, then in all ways he will look upon you as a patron, and keep your secrets as long as you live. Since paying this toll should not then go to waste, perhaps I too may cross, and by my skill of song harbor you from any word of your misdeeds being spoken in that fair court. You have given freely to this bandit, and it is now time for you to gain my friendship by permitting my crossing. I shall be in your debt and sing high praise of you, guarding you from the wrath of any host. Aelthras listened to the sparrow, and spoke to him in rebuke. I am no good man who gives freely to brigands who battle my master. I am the agent of the hawk king Etheldor, and have paid the otter from my own purse, leaving to the king that which is his. I have little to fear of this man's tongue, though I know by the word of the land that he is not given to drunkenness, and would not sell to any man the names of those who cross. Oft has he fought my master, though unable to fight all men sent to this place. They could not hold this ford from him long after. This place belongs to the otter until the hawk king comes again, and then it will belong to the king until the otter returns to this place. I have chosen this path as an expedient, for I have with me news most dire, which must reach the ears of my Ceallach, as it is his duty to this land to hear woes and pass judgment. Woe shall soon burden him, for his favourite has come to his riches by murder and theft, that he has feasted upon the fruits of death in joyful engagements. In my purse I hold the last of the cursed coin, which was taken in blood, a single ring, beautifully cast, worth more in gold than the great flocks of he who gave it in penance. Already I have spent too long at this place, long still to travel until my king hears this case. Delay me no longer, for I have no more desire to waste these hours with mindless talk. Further he went into the river, the otter guiding him through the waters and the sparrow watching from the shore in agony. No pass was open to him, no land safe for his art. In the lands beyond the river a powerful king yet reigned, and the land knew peace, where behind it there was war, and closer than they had believed, for the war-bringer pursuing the ring false-claimed came to the river, and hearing the rebuff of the sparrow, he knew that which he sought was within his grasp. He walked to the edge of the waters, Noreen by his side, and demanded the ring. That which you have is truly cursed, for in blood was it cast, though long I thought it was golden. This ring belonged to my love, and she named me the only heir to all she owned. Stolen was that ring, as was her soul by wicked charlatans, and I pursued until in dark forests I slew him that had harmed me. but the ring was stolen by another, who sold it to a benefactor in bad faith and slew him. So this villain came to Gallion, who from the greed in his heart killed him in slumber. I went to the home of Gallion, and found it taken again from me, and learning his story, I slew him. Now the ring is yours, and knowing the tale of the cursed ring, you must give it to me by right. No longer does your journey have an urgency, for justice has been given to him who murdered. Give the ring, and forget that you seek a Ceallach's judgment. I have spared justice the need to weigh his soul. Far have I journeyed for that ring, and I will not have it denied me. It is but a trinket, a token of dead love. Surrender it, and live long, happy days. The hunter and Noreen drew their weapons, and prepared to enter the river. The otter guided the agent to the banks on the other side, and turned back to face them. The bird chirps sweet songs but poor counsel. The hound brays like a donkey for the false memory of his master. The bird is better than the wrong-voiced dog. A good hound dies of starvation at the death of his master, yet before the river stand two who have betrayed their right duty. In delivering justice to the sheep, a new injustice was made. The agent of the hawk has paid in full the river otter for safe passage, and he shall have what he paid for. He will not be accosted by beggars or traitors, nor shall he be burdened by poor verse. The otter has this vowed: he will not be robbed or harmed, not by the river and not by black hearts. You cannot cross this river. Battle was joined with a rush, the hunter and Noreen with swords of well-forged iron, taken from the burned hall of kings. In the hands of the otter but a long stick to find footing in changing waters. Powerful beasts seethed into the waters, and the otter met them. They were more skilled in war, but the otter was sure-footed, and knew every rock of his ford, as a goat in the high mountains. Where they would stumble he would not, and struck them hard with his staff, so swift that they could not see it. Their rage betrayed them to the mud, yet still the battle went against him. They sought to cross the river and take the ring, and while the otter battled one, the other would move for the other bank. As they crossed, he unleashed a fury of blows to stun his foe, and went to face the other. In this way they crossed into the middle of the ford, the otter tripping and stalling as long as his strength held, his honor demanding the agent deliver to the Ceallach. But the cursed power of the hunter was burning rage, boiling the otter's ford. Slowly he was driven ever back, desperate in delay. He had not the stamina of the hunter. The sparrow, seeing the otter flagging and the mad curse upon the hunter, began to sing a song of staying, of resting vigilance and unwavering will. And as he sang, the otter was emboldened, and began pushing them cleverly, using his stick to herd them back to the far bank. But when his feet stood once more on earth, they overpowered him, for he could no longer trip them with unseen rocks, and the otter would have perished, had not Ceallach come at that time. He had long followed rumor of the hunter, and in coming to Aglach Salam learned of his movements, and pursued him. At the home of Gallion he found his ruin, and went therefore to speak with the great Ceallach of that land. He knew little of these lands, and hastened along the quickest route to the lands of Etheldor. Meeting the river, he turned to seek a ford. In such manner he came upon the battle, and knowing the hunter from the great war of Malach and the burning of Hala, set upon him. In joining the battle, he pulled the otter free and let him rest while he fought. He was still the sword of Hala, a force like a summer storm in war, quickly wounding Noreen in the leg. Noreen could not stand, and crawled from that place to safety. The battle fell to the hunter and Ceallach alone. The sparrow, unsure of the new warrior or his aims, gave him no help from song, instead giving his melody to the wounded otter, ending his bleeding with masterful song. Ceallach beat upon the hunter, swinging the sword Malach had given him. Against him the hunter held the masterwork of Hala, and so they were matched. Great thunderous blows fell upon each other. Their shields were soon broken at their feet. The hunter had in him hundreds of souls, each of them a strength in his blood, but Ceallach was his equal, still waxing in the power which belongs to mortal bodies. Long they fought, unable to wound the other, until the hunter placed his leg inside Ceallach's and unbalanced him with a forceful push. Ceallach would have been slain had he not grabbed the blade of his foe, losing 2 fingers from his left hand. He howled in pain, trees shuddering their leaves off and boulders breaking at the sound. But he was still the sword of Hala, and not defeated. Swiftly he rose, gaining his footing and delivering blows to the body of the hunter, who in arrogance had thought of final victory. The wounds the bone-hilted sword gave left no mark, healing quickly as the souls taken by the hunter's curse took injury for him, as the song of the sparrow had erased the wounds of the otter. Ceallach knew not of this, and began to fear that his foe was no longer of mortal kind. But his rage quelled his fear, and he pressed on his attack, falling upon the hunter renewed. Such skill was not known to the hunter, who began to retreat from the river. Still Ceallach could deliver no blow which would kill the beast before him. It was the sparrow who sang songs of power which raised Ceallach to victory. For having saved the otter and seeing the battle between the 2 powerful warriors, he sought to end the hunter by his song. Ceallach felt strength enter him, and with final stroke delivered the mortal blow to the hunter, who fell from the great wound to his head, for he wore no helm in battle. A black ichor pooled from the wound. Ceallach, satisfied in his victory, left the field and went to the sparrow and otter, there seeking to offer thanks to his allies. The otter could not walk from exhaustion, though all his wounds were healed, and the sparrow sought still to cross the river. Ceallach bore the otter and guided the sparrow across the river, taking great care not to fall. On the other bank stood the agent, who had hidden in the trees when pursued, but now came forward, offering them places in the hall of the Uncolta bar, and they went there. On the other side of the bank, Noreen stirred. His wounds were not mortal, and he returned to the river to find the hunter slain. As he searched the body of the hunter for treasure, he was given to shock, for the mortal wound which Ceallach had delivered him had begun to heal. Afraid though he was, Noreen took the hunter from that place and began to tend to his wounds, awed by the power of the darkness. End Book 2. The Ring of Dain Thar Duin was written and performed by Michael Frutig. If you have enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting the project on Patreon. Supporters get text files of each chapter, as well as access to Q&A posts, other writing projects, such as flash fiction and chapters of other works. Go to patreon.com/michaelfrutig for more. patreon.com/MICHAELFRUTIG. Thank you.